Last year at FishOMania, Matt Hall became the first man ever to win the title twice. This year, from over 2,000 entries, just 16 contenders remain. 5 hours of fishing with £25,000 on the line. There can only be one winner. It's time to face the fish.
A massive weekend of fishing. It's FishOMania 17. If fishing is a religion, then this man is the high priest. He delivers his sermon every week on tight lines. Keith, Arthur, it gets better every year, doesn't it?
It does. You know, the hairs on the back of my neck seem to stand out further every year. And despite the conditions, despite the anglers, it's just the massive buzz in the whole of the area. Traffic queues everywhere. It's just a fabulous, fabulous event.
They say it's the circus coming to town, don't they? It's the festival of fishing.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the anglers that are taking part in the match today, it's, for most of them, the highlight of their match fishing career. You know, there's only one of them fish for England on here, and there's not many more of them likely to fish for England. Tom Pickering's been world champion. But apart from being world champion, this is where he's always wanted to be. And at last, he's that side of the glass rather than this side.
Well, of course, only 16 make it here today. They are the lucky men. 130, 120 anglers, should I say, all of the various regionals. This is Neil Machin. He was one of the early favourites. He's been here before. Tommy's been our studio expert since the year dot, but this is the first time he's going to be lakeside. He's one of the favourites. The early money was going on another one of those who has the experience in Kieran Rich. Many of these fishermen have been here this week with their families on the various pegs, fishing in the different conditions, fishing as well from the various areas of the lake. Who will be the lucky man that wins the £25,000 come at the end of the day? Well, it may come down to where you're placed on the arena lake during the course of the afternoon. We have 16 pegs. About 2/3 of the lake is covered, Keith, isn't it? And it's where you're placed which can be so important as well.
Absolutely, and we've seen over the last couple of years MPEGs playing a bit of a role. And what we've done this year, rather than just have those anglers with completely open water to their right, we've put blockers in. And that's just match anglers, proper experienced match anglers, and there, peg there and there. So they're the same distance from pegs 1 and peg 16 as, for example, peg 2 is from peg 3. It's equidistant. They will be fishing as if they're in the match, and there'll be a lot of pride at stake because they'll want to say, I beat the champion of FishOMania, or I would have been 7th if I qualified. So there's a lot in it for that. It couldn't possibly be fairer.
That is the start of FishOMania. Tommy Pickering, when he qualified, said that he didn't sleep for 3 nights, and he is the man who has won virtually everything during the course of his illustrious angling career. 16 men, so to speak, dipping their rods in the water, getting their wagglers out, Keith.
And sorting out, they're laying their table. They're laying the table for the fish for the day. They're preparing their swims. Some people will be fishing on the feeder, which means they'll be casting with a rod and line, possibly close to the island. The long poles that are going out with the cups on the end, that's got feed in, maybe worms and casters or maggots. Casters are the chrysalis of maggots before they eventually turn into flies. Some will be using pellets designed as fish food, primarily carp food, and they'll just be laying a bed for those fish to come in and graze on. And they may not fish there for some time. They may let the fish settle on that area and then start to attack it a bit later.
What do? Do they go into their own world and go with the tactics that they've devised during the course of the week, or do they have a sly look and use their bank runners and see what the other guys are doing elsewhere on the lake?
You can't help it. You've got to know when to look away and when to look at what you're doing. You've got to have full concentration, but you've got to be able to be aware of what's going on. The runners can help where anglers are out of vision, but where you can actually see the angler, sometimes you see them catch every fish. And you know more about what they've caught than they've caught themselves. It's incredible when you're on the bank yourself fishing. It just is an astonishing medium to be in match fishing. It really is.
Well, Tommy Pickering, as we know, talks a good game. Today he's playing a good game. He's just beneath our studio. We'd like to keep him rather close, and I know he can hear what we're saying actually. Tommy has caught his first fish of the afternoon. There's been a lot of money on Tommy this afternoon, 4-1 favourite, and living up to that as well.
Yeah, and that was a tench, which Matt Hall was saying is starting to show.
Well, that is our aerial view. We have 4 reporters covering 4 anglers each. Let's have a little shake around the lake, starting at peg 1 with Alec Wilkinson.
Looks pretty impressive from up there, doesn't it? And it's pretty impressive down here as well, up close and personal with the anglers. Let me introduce you to the first 4 pegs over on one. It's Stuart Ballard, the 48-year-old from Walsall, is on one of the favourite pegs, being an end peg. He's a little bit concerned that there might be noise though, because he's close to the stage and he's got hundreds of people behind him. And then on peg 2, Sean Huggins, who's already pulled a barbel out, so an early catch for him, a former UK champion. I asked him, is he doing FishOMania for the prestige or the money? He said, definitely the 25 grand. Andy Benwell on peg number 3. He's an Oxford United fan, absolutely crazy fan and season ticket holder, and he'll always remember the weekend that he qualified for FishOMania, because it's the same weekend that Oxford were promoted back into the Football League. And then it's Neil McKinnon over on 4. It's his second FishOMania final. He was 5th in 2007. How will he do this year? We'll find out over the next 5 hours or so. Right, over to peg 5 and Andy Ford.
Thanks, Alec. Well, over here on peg 5, you can probably see just behind me that my man here, Andy North, is on his feet. He's playing his second barbel, and that will have settled his nerves massively. Big round of applause from the people watching him. He's got his whole family here up at the back, his dad, his mum and his sister. Andy said he wasn't nervous before the start of the match. Be interesting to see when his nerves went when that hooter went. I know the hairs on the back of my neck stood up as FishOMania got underway again. Now, moving on to peg number 6, here we've got Rob Wootton. Now, Rob was in the final last year, you may remember. And Rob actually had one of those days that he'll be thinking about for the rest of his life, because he finished second. And as you know, in FishOMania, second is nowhere. It's winner take all. The man on peg number 7, Kieran Rich, who's fishing his 3rd FishOMania final, is one of those who's absolutely up there in the favourites. And Kieran is a fantastic angler on natural baits, things like maggots, casters, worms, that type of bait. And that's the sort of method that might well win him the match today, and people are watching him very keenly indeed. Be interested to see how Kieran gets on. Now, moving down here onto peg number 8, we've got a real family story going on here. Last year, Mick Bull was fishing the final. This year, it's his brother Tim who's on peg number 8. And the roles have swapped around, because last year Tim was Mick's bank runner and now Mick is Tim's bank runner. We'll have to see how Tim progresses with that. Let's move over to Ali on peg number 9.
Thank you very much indeed, Andy. Well, let's start off on peg number 9 here, just behind me, where Steve Bamford is. Now, this is Steve, 39-year-old transport manager's first time of qualifying for FishOMania. Now, just right here on peg number 10 is Richard Hoskins. He's already caught himself a carp. He's got the catching underway. And the interesting thing about Richard is that both he and his fishing buddy, Steve Seaburn, both qualified from Ross-on-Wye. And together, they've come up with a decision that should either one of them win that £25,000 winner-takes-all prize, they'll give the other £2,000 of it. So they're kind of rooting for each other, in a sense. OK, as we move further on pegs number 11 and 12, we've got Neil Machin and Tommy Pickering, now both highly regarded anglers. And in fact, before the draw was made last night, they were joint favourites. Neil, first of all, well, his nickname is Macho. We'll see whether that comes into play today. And he knows exactly what it's like to lift that coveted title, because he did it himself back in 2006. As for Tommy, well, quite remarkably, despite the fact he's a former world champion, this is the first year that he's actually qualified for FishOMania. For now, though, I'm going to hand you over to Patrick.
Thanks, Ali. On peg 13, we've got 35-year-old building surveyor Steve Seaborn. Was due to be assisted by Richie Hoskins, his best man, but with Richie also qualifying, it's Dave Roberts, a finalist from last year, who steps in. Next to him on peg 14, the baby of this year's FishOMania, 20-year-old Luke Bamford, the youngest, but perhaps the most impressive of all the qualifiers. Caught 167 pounds at Lindholm Lakes in the last qualifier. That's more than anyone else in this whole field. Worth mentioning as we walk around that this is the part of the lake where all the action was last year. First, second, third, all came from this part of the lake, as did the biggest fish, which was caught on peg 15 by Mark Tullett. This time on peg 15, we've got Ben Emery, and he's here with his wife Natalie. Had a little chat with them last night. The money, the $25,000 that's on offer here today, that could help them buy a new house. Just an example of how much this means to all these guys. Finally, peg 16, Ray Hayward, the plum draw really, the most successful peg in FishOMania history. He was delighted when he got it, and he's already made a great start. He's got a barbel in the net.
We've got a legend in the studio, the only man ever to win FishOMania twice, in 2003 and 2009. Matt, congratulations on last year and welcome to the studio.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good day today. Yeah.
Where'd you rather be, sitting there or sitting out there?
I can't believe you've asked me that. out there, obviously.
Well, this is what we want to see. We want to see fish caught all around the lake. It's been a prolific start so far. We'll be talking to the anglers. They're all going to be hooked up to our microphones and our earphones during the course of the afternoon, as Matt was last year. But we have our expert down close to the island. What we've got for you between the two orange barriers today is Andy May, who knows his fishing. Andy May, angling consultant and coach. Andy, you're going to be leading the line today. You're going to be the fisherman's friend, so to speak. They're going to be seeing what you're doing. How are conditions down there? What's your tactical nous?
Rob, conditions absolutely perfect now. I started off on the method first. Nothing on that, just a little roach basically, and I think that's what most anglers have done. Basically, you're casting straight over to see if there's a few quick fish to be had, and if they're not on it, you're just basically giving your pole line just a chance to rest kind of thing. That's exactly what I've done. I've had quarter of an hour, 20 minutes on the method, not had a bite, and I've come on the pole and I've had a lovely barbel first chuck on it, so can't complain with that.
That was our Claxton, the hooter, and that will be the indication to our reporters and the bagmen there to take the weights away to see what they've managed to catch during the 30 minutes.
Martin, if you can just bring Andy North's net of fish up. Andy's had a cracking start, he really has. Little net of barbel, actually. There you can see, look, lovely little barbel, fantastic, absolutely perfect. Just go and see what Andy's had. He's had a cracking first half hour. So just underneath 4 kilo. Bob, what's it?
3 kilos 900.
3 kilos 900, so 3 kilos for Andy's first weigh.
So we're on peg 2, Sean Huggins, and timed for a weigh-in here. We'll get Andre, the chief steward, to go in and collect the fish, which is going to be brought over onto the mat. Now, Sean was one of the first to bring in a fish this afternoon. It'll be interesting to see. There are 2. Is that 2 in there now? I think there are 2 fish in there. Yeah, there's a tiddly one that's got caught up in the net, and a bigger one. That's the one that is the most significant one. We put it on the scales, and let's see what it weighs.
1 kilo 240.
The worst thing is, I think, is if you catch nothing in the first hour or so. One of those at the moment, I think, is Kieran Ritchie, who's one of the early favourites. He's on peg 7. There's a lot of money on Kieran, and he has caught diddly squat so far.
Sometimes, though, Rob, I mean, I've been on matches when you've caught really well at the beginning and something happens and the fish switch off. Yeah. On other occasions, I've built a peg during the day, and I'm sure Matt's done the same, and you don't really want to catch early. Sometimes you wait for the fish, you lay the table, as I spoke about earlier, and then let that area settle before you go on it. Now, last year, that definitely didn't work. And Matt's approach of feeding to his fish definitely worked. As he caught a fish, he would feed a number of fish, he'd put some more feed in. And you can't do that when you're doing more than one method.
But there's a nice skimmer coming in.
Now he's changed because we saw Richie catch a decent carp. That carp that was what, 3 kilo, big 3 kilo fish. And he's already changed over to the pole, and he's now caught a skimmer. Yeah. So he'll be really happy. And that's a good fish there.
Sandy Benwell down there.
I think you'll start to see a pattern emerge soon of people settling on what it is they're going to do.
I think £60 will be an outstanding weight today.
You think so?
Yeah, I think I'll have every chance. But what did you weigh last year, Matt?
34 kilos.
Which is £75 roughly, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, 60, £70. I think
nobody came close last year to you either, did they?
I think there'll be 1 or 2 with similar weights to that this year.
The crowd behind the anglers are quiet. You'll hear a little ripple applause as they bring in these fish here and there. That on peg 2 is Sean Huggins, who's had a decent start.
So here it is, the leaderboard after the first half an hour of FishOMania 17. This is how it's panning out. Andy North has had a great start on peg 5, and it's pegs 3, 4 and 5 that are hot at the moment. 3.9 kilos for Andy North, but Andy Benwell not too far behind him, and Neil McKinnon as well. He's been here before and learned a big lesson last time he was in FishOMania. Tommy Pickering, the favourite at the start of the day, is at least on the top half of the leaderboard after the first weigh-in, while poor old Kieran Rich, who's the local hero, has caught local 0 so far on peg 7. He's in 16th position, but that'll chop and change as the afternoon goes on.
That is the current leader, Andy North, 31-year-old from Armley in Leeds, and He's adding to the weight as well. So we're up and flying here at FishOMania 17. Very, very good start. 15 of the 16 anglers have managed to get something on the board so far, but we still have another 9 rounds to go. Well, FishOMania 17 is underway. This is Sean Huggins. This is a picture of concentration. Former UK champion in 2005. Rob Watton came second last year, wants to go one better last year. It's like a wedding. All eyes are on the bride at FishOMania. Nobody wants to know who's bridesmaid, and Rob was bridesmaid last year. Caught the bouquet at the hotel afterwards. He's a class angler. Won the White Cross Festival and one of the early favourites. Rob, who is an angling consultant from Leicester. Peg 9, Steve Bamford, about to bag. Well, they're the anglers, but let's meet the real stars of the show. Of course, they are the fish. Every 30 minutes or so, we get a hooter. That does tell us that we're due our second weigh-in. Of course, after the first weigh-in, it was Andy North on peg 5 who is doing particularly well. But let's see who's doing well in the second half an hour of FishOMania. Let's go down to peg 14. Luke Bamford, our youngest competitor there, 20 years of age, had a bad opening half hour. He's with Patrick Davison.
OK, yeah, we've got Keith for the weigh-in for Luke Bamford. Had a quiet first half an hour, but an excellent second half an hour. A couple of carp, we think, in the net here. There you go, nice couple of carp in there. Something like tigers in here.
Yeah, that's right. The 2 kilos. I think it's 550. I think 2,550.
2 kilos, 550. Great second half hour for Luke Bamford.
Here we are on Kieran Rich's peg 7. Kieran had a pretty slow start, has to be said. I can tell you that in the last sort of, I suppose, 35 minutes or so, he started to catch pretty regularly on his pole line. So you can see Paul's just bringing up the net, and I can see that there's at least one really nice looking carp in there. Now, rumour has it that these pegs around this part of the lake actually switch on a little bit later on in the match. There you can see there's a nice carp and a couple of decent sized skimmer bream in there. So Bob's just popping the net on the scales. Let's have a look and see what that's doing. And Kieran would have been disappointed at the way it's gone so far, but he'll be very relieved he's got a few fish in the net now. Let's have a look. It's settling around mid 3 kilos. Bob, what we got?
670.
So that's 3 kilos, 670 for Kieran Rich. At least he's away now.
So here's how things are shaping up here on FishOMania 17. At the moment, Andy North is a good kilo ahead of Rob Wootton, who came second last year, and he's second at the moment this year as well. Sean Huggins on peg 2 with 5 kilo 450, Neil Machin on peg 11 and Ray Hayward on the favoured M peg, peg 16, with just over 4.5 kilos. Now Tommy Pickering is the favourite to win FishOMania, or should I say was the favourite at the start of the day. Sadly at the moment he's coming in last place, and by the miracle of television we can find out exactly what's happening.
Well, let's give somebody a bit of a grilling down on peg 12. Tom Pickering, I'll just allow him to take this fish out. I don't want to disturb you, Tommy, as I know you haven't had too many fish this afternoon, so this one is very important that you get it in the back and we get it in the way.
Right,
can you hear us now, Tommy?
Yeah, I can hear you, mate.
Talk us through it, mate. Congratulations, well done.
Thanks, mate. I could hear you slagging me off.
It was merely constructive criticism.
Yeah. All your coaching last 5 or 6 years, eh?
I know you said if it got quiet you're going to come and join us up here, but I thought you were only joking.
Get them pork pies ready. I won't be long.
That was a decent carp, Tom.
Yeah, it was £4. It were. They're there. There's fish swirling all over, Keith.
Is there?
Yeah, it's making me. I mean, I've got my game plan. It works. It works. It don't. It's. But I'm not. You know, I'm going to die trying. And I lost a little carp after half an hour.
Did you?
Like a couple of pounds. But they're there. They're swirling. It's just a case of sorting it out, really, and hold the feed, you know.
You're fishing the method feeder, aren't you, Tom?
I'm fishing method.
You're fishing the pellet or the ground bait?
I've tried both. I've been on pellet, on ground bait. In practice, ground bait were miles better. And I've just had a couple of chucks on pellet and I've gone back to ground. I shan't pick pellets up again now.
Okay.
Tommy, thanks very much for keeping us informed. Let's hope that you have a good, I think we've got about another 4 hours left of FishOMania.
Oh, there's plenty of time, mate.
Exactly. Stick at it. Stick at it. Let's go down to our expert on the bank, Andy May. Andy, explain. Tommy's talking a good game, but you put it into pictures for us.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's fishing the method. It's a fantastic way to catch fish. It fishes itself, but I mean, obviously, it all comes down to accuracy. The way I personally load the method feeder is to put the bait in first, so that you'll see as soon as we put this other bait on top, you've got the actual hook bait straight there for the fish to come into. So hook bait, which is herring meat in this case, ground bait over the top, which is half ground bait and half micros. Put the method over, just squeeze it down, and then you can see there the hook bait is at the top. So once Tommy's cast it in, it's going plopping in, that'll land, and then obviously the fish are coming into it, that meat's there, the first thing they see, so then it's game over. Obviously your hook bait's in that close proximity to the feed, you can see where it is. It's directly, just in line with where the ground bait is. Really good way of catching fish.
Wonderfully done as well.
It's incredible, Andy, because the method was first devised and it's changed dramatically since then. Now they're flat, so they sit on the bottom. Absolutely. Rather than being a sort of a round frame like they used to be. And the great thing is, as I said, the fish think it's a ball of ground bait, which has got no danger. And then they find a bit of hook bait in it, a bigger sample, and they're on it like a shot. I mean, I used to have a friend of mine who used to fish bare hooks in the method feeder because they just dug in and took anything that wasn't ground bait. They felt it, swam away with it, and they hook themselves as well. So as long as the fish has taken the bait, you generally get a really good hook hold, and there's a shock absorber built into the method feeder as well. Because you use a very tiny hook length, it can break quite easily, but building an elastic shock absorber into the feeder stops the fish breaking the line.
Studious, a picture of concentration. Rob Wootton down there on peg 6. Came second last year behind our studio guest Matt Hall, who's won it in 2003, 2009. How difficult is it, Matt, to get yourself into the zone when there are people and lots of things going on around you? Such as that hooter.
I think it's like we talked about earlier. It's a start. If you get a good start, you can get your head straight into what you should be doing and stay focused. And then it doesn't matter what happens around you. You're sort of oblivious to it all.
Andy North got off to an absolute fly. How important will that be to him, or will he now be concerned that he's peaked a little bit early?
I don't think he'll be concerned. I think what he is concerned at is he's started to find that the fish are backed off in his peg. If you look round the lake, it seems to have happened to everybody. So he's not on his own, but what he's got is a start. So if he can pull a few fish back into his peg, then he's looking good. But I've just had a quick look around the lake and it's very quiet at the minute. But you get periods like that where the fish just sort of slow up. They'll be back though.
Well, as you heard the hooter, that means that we're due a next weigh-in. Let's get down to peg 6. Andy Ford.
Yep, we've just had a weigh-in over here. That's Rob Wootton's weigh. That's 1 kilo 906, and Matt's just popping those in the net.
So we're on peg 3 with Andy Benwell, the 36-year-old carpenter from Oxford, and he was the only fisherman who didn't have any fish for the last weigh-in, and he sort of crashed down the leaderboard because of that. But we're here now because we think he's got quite a catch. And look at that, there's 2 fish in there. We're going to put them on the scales, and the chief steward, Andre, can read out how much it weighs.
2 kilos, 800 grams.
2 kilos, 800 grams for Andy Benwell.
Down to peg 11. Neil Machin won it in 2006. He's had his problems this afternoon, but I'm sure he's got a smile on his face now, Keith.
Well, see, skimmers are small bream. That, in my day, would have been a bream. Although they'll still be called a skimmer, that's a good kilo fish, that. And they come in so quickly, and they're in such big shoals, that if he gets those lined up in front of him, you can get a big weight of those. I don't have there many in, Matt.
Yeah, but they're not really like shoalfish like normal venues. They don't seem to be in big shoals. They seem to be knocking around with the other fish.
Interesting to note, Rob Wootton there has just had a look on the feeder. Now he's going back on the pole.
This is a danger. You get caught up chopping and changing.
Yep.
But Rob knows the crack. He's an experienced angler. Obviously, was second place last year. He knows what he should and shouldn't be doing.
Could be just wanted a couple of chucks to rest.
Yeah. Might have seen some activity over there, some swirling or something.
Well, he's certainly seen some activity in the water this afternoon, because Rob Wootton has taken the lead after the 3rd weigh-in here on FishOMania 17. Meanwhile, Neil Machin has also moved his way up the leaderboard and is now in 2nd place. Sean Huggins has had a good half an hour. He's gone up to 3rd place, while Tommy Pickering, of course, caught nothing in the opening half an hour, had a decent second half an hour, and Tommy's starting to show his undoubted class. I say that because I know he can hear every word. He's now up into 7th place. And here's the bottom half of the leaderboard, but unlike recent years, there's been a good spread around the lake on the different pegs. No great indication which part of the lake, or indeed which individual, is going to take the £25,000 winner takes all. I have to say, I think it's the closest overall leaderboard we've seen in a very long time.
This is Neil Machin, who's had a good hour or so, hasn't he, down there on peg 11.
We saw the bait going in the pot, we saw the bowl shipped out, now we're seeing it coming with a fish. And that's a tench. And that's in the area, I think, Matt, you were catching tench around there, you said, didn't you?
Exactly right, Keith. Yeah, that's the area where I fished last Sunday.
Well, it is like Britain's Got Talent. These guys leave their day jobs behind, some of them cleaners, some of them business managers. We've had lawyers enter FishOMania this year as well. But who is going to take the £25,000? At the moment, the favourite is down on peg 11. Let's get down there and find out how things are developing with Ali.
Thanks very much indeed, Rob. Yeah, peg 11 has been all action stations with Neil. He was 2nd after the last weigh-in, so let's find out, David, where he's standing at now. Does this look like quite a good catch?
Nice net of skimmers again, certainly, yes. Very good net. 3 kilos and 90. 3 kilos and 90.
David, thanks very much indeed. That should certainly put Neil in a pretty healthy position. There was only half a kilo between him and 1st place after the last weigh-in, so let's find out in a little while where that places him on the leaderboards.
On peg 15, Ben Emery continues to catch. The problem is, I think, as we're about to see size. Let's get them out of there, Dave. Have a little look what we've got. Just pass those on to Keith as steward, and let's get over to the scales. You see 3 fish. What have we got in there, Dick?
Little crucian there, look, and a chub. And what's this one, a skimmer? Oh, it's a roach, is it? Yeah.
Ben Emery down the bottom of the leaderboard, but he is continuing to catch fish.
£960 grams.
960 grams for Ben Emery on weigh-in 4.
Well, the lead up before this weigh-in was Rob Watton, last year's runner-up. Wonder how he's going to do after the next weigh-in. Let's go down. I think we can join Andy Ford.
So, Rob, how's it going?
It was going okay to start with, and it's not had a bite for half an hour, so yeah, not great now.
It's weird the way the fish seem to have cleared off in this bit, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Kieran started catching. He slowed down. Obviously, Andy next to me, he stormed off as well, and we're at a standstill now. No one's catching anything.
I know how much you wanted to go one better than you did last year. I mean, you're leading at the moment. How's that feel? It's a bit of a weird one.
Well, I don't think I'm leading now. Obviously, Neil's leading now, but we've just got to hope they come back. That's all we can do.
Maybe the carp will turn up later as well.
Yeah.
I notice you've primed an edge peg.
Yeah. This is sort of the same sort of area where Mick won. I know it was different pegging, but he won a couple of years ago in this sort of area. Obviously, he caught a lot of fish in his margin, so that's one of my main sort of get out of jail swims, if we could call it.
Well, best of luck, matey. Hope it picks up for you in a bit.
All right, cheers, Andy.
So let's have a look at that leaderboard, and it hasn't been a great 30 minutes for Rob Wootton. He's down to 4th place. Neil Machin, however, has had a good half hour, and things for him are looking up. He's now taken the lead ahead of Neil McKinnon there in 2nd place. Andy North, who was the early leader, is now in 3rd place, and Tommy Pickering, fish after fish after fish. He's not to be ruled out. He was the bookies' favourite at the start of the day. That's the top of the leaderboard. Down to the bottom, and Luke Bamford, the youngster, is in 16th place. Ben Emery, another of the first-timers, is in 15th. And Kieran Rich was highly fancied. He's in 9th place. But as we say, a couple of big fish in half an hour, and you can easily go from 9th to 1st.
Down on peg 4, Neil McKinnon has got a bit of action.
I don't know if I'm imagining things. It looked like he was fishing a bit shallow. I don't know if that's is that a depth rig? It's very, it's not much more than a metre deep.
I think it's a depth rig. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's Mr. Pickering. It's the plip-plop. Mr. Ploppy, as they now call him, with the method feeder. It makes a gentle plop when it goes into the water. See a method feeder, Tommy's on the end of it.
Well, this is the man who's top of the pile at the moment. Neil Machin, vastly experienced. Well, last time he won it, put an extension on the house, bought a car, went on a holiday with £25,000. I'm not sure the £25,000 would actually stretch that far this time. A home water logistics manager from Stoke-upon-Trent. Well, he's got his logistics right today. Hello, Neil. Can you hear us? It's Rob in the studio.
It was only a cheap car.
And how big was the extension?
It was quite big.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was quite big.
And the holiday, where did you get to?
I went on a cruise.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Are you dreaming at this present moment in time of another cruise, a slightly bigger car, but maybe not the extension?
I was, until I stopped getting bites. The wind's just picked up now. It's making it really awkward to fish the way I want to fish, and it's just towing through quite bad, and it's a job to hold the pole, let alone fish now.
Fishing with paste is difficult in the wind as well, Neil, because when you get that tow, you only need the slightest little movement and your hook's out the paste. Luckily, it's out the paste into a fish. I can see
it. It is now, yeah. It is difficult, Keith, like you say, and I'm only fishing little tiny bits as well, so there's not a lot there to come off the hook, really, so it is a bit tricky.
Do you put a little bit on the depth when that happens, Neil? Just lay a bit of line on the bottom?
Yeah, just to slow it down a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I anticipated the wind blowing quite hard today. The weather forecast was to sort of 15 mile an hour winds, and I knew it was going to be blowing across me as well, with it being a southwesterly. So I've got an extra bit of line on above the float as well today, just to stop it, because the tip's moving about a bit, just to stop it pulling out of the paste.
Are you using a paste made from ground bait, a specialised paste mix, or is it pellets?
No, it's made from pellets, Keith.
Yeah.
Yeah, just ground down pellets.
Lovely. And that's great, isn't it? Because I think sometimes fish eat, especially skimmers, they eat the fish that they eat the food that the carp don't digest. It passes through the carp, and it's a really lovely natural food. for bream, especially in commercial fisheries. But
That's
the trouble is
right.
we tend to use such big bits looking for carp,
Yeah.
it avoids the bream. You're being
does.
a bit crafty there.
I've been a bit. I'm trying to catch everything, Keith.
Yeah.
To be honest, you know that was me. That was my tactic. I thought it might be a bit hard, and if you don't need a great deal to win it, then hopefully my tactic will be right. But if it's going to be like an £100 match, it won't. Obviously, it's not going to be right. But we'll see. At the minute, it's not doing too bad.
We'll let you get back to your angling there, Neil. Congratulations, top of the
Cheers.
leaderboard at the moment. It can be a life-changing experience winning FishOMania, that £25,000. Can take the pressure off your mortgage or get you a nice shiny carp. Or indeed, it can send your wife on a shopping spree or girlfriend as well. That's peg 16. Ray Hayward came second in 2003. It's always a fancy peg, is peg 16. He's not had the best of starts so far, Ray. It's all coming down maybe to tactics. Let's have a word with our man who's somewhere over my shoulder down there in between the orange barriers, Andy May, who's the local expert. Tell us, what is changing out there? Give us your insight.
Yeah, I think what happened to start off with, a lot of people tried it on the method and it just wasn't working for them. It seems to be a trend everyone's got on the pole now. By far the best way I've found of fishing the pole, particularly feeding it, is to put actually little worms and casters in with the ground bait. What's happened is if you just put the worms and casters in just on their own, they're getting blown around by the fish on the bottom, and especially fish like a barbel, which is quite prominent in this lake, they're coming into your feed and just blowing it around over a massive area. So by feeding it in ground bait, it keeps the bait in one area. I'll just demonstrate it. Basically all what's happening, the ball's going in, that'll start to break down. If you can imagine, as the barbel actually come into it and actually break it up even more, if you can get your hook bait, sort of on or near that ground bait, what's happening is you just see that because it's bigger than the actual, loose feed that you're putting in, and it just stands out like a sore thumb basically. So you can see, like, if the barbel was coming into it and obviously just kicking it around, it's keeping fish there all the time, you see. So I'm pushing that quite hard and it's always keeping a bit of bait there, whereas if it was just worms and casters, obviously it'd get blown around over too big an area, and that's what the problem is when, especially as I say with a barbel, you're getting a lot of line bites, far lookers, they're just blowing the bait around over a big area. So definitely that's the key, putting it in ground bait.
Andy, thank you very much. Wonderful demonstration. I think a few of the experts who are alongside you on the lake as well are taking note of what you were saying. Well, at the moment, it's a three-way scrap between the two Neils. Neil Machin, as you can see, top of the pile there at the moment, on peg 11, just over 11 kilos. Neil McKinnon, just under 9 kilos on peg 4. In third place, Andy North on peg 5. But things may change once we get the bags in. That hoot up, signalling to the bankmen that they should weigh the fish caught in the last 30 minutes or so. Well, let's get down to peg 15. Ben Emery has had a good half an hour. He's with Patrick Davison.
What we've got there?
Little bit of carp, and then he's got one chub and two chub and a roach, and a little roach. Yeah,
let's get them weighed.
So here we go. 1 kilo, 800. Come on. 40 grams. 1 kilo, 840.
1 kilo, 840. Ben Emery climbing the leaderboard.
Well, after the last weigh-in, Neil was on 11 kilos and 20. He was leading the way by quite a bit. Second to fifth place were just over 8 kilos each. But really, I guess that's only a good fish between them, potentially. So let's find out what he's able to do with this one. So this is Neil Machin on peg 11. Let's find out what this gets to David.
Nice weight again today.
$1 kilo, 390.
Okay, well, it's been quite a quiet spell, actually, but there's always a little bit of a dip in the middle of the afternoon in FishOMania, so all that could change very quickly.
Thank you, Ali. I think we put the curse on Neil. Whoever we put the headphones and the microphone on, they don't like it. They have about half hour. But 1 kilo may well be enough to keep him at the top of the leaderboard. Takes him to just over 12 kilos so far. And as you say, Keith, it's getting something every half an hour, isn't it? Cumulative.
Keep putting it in. That's the important thing. When you catch him in fits and starts, even if you have a really good half hour, you fail the next half hour and you're back to where you started. So it's really good if you can just keep catching. When that good spell comes along, you're really ready for it and you can make hay while the sun shines.
Matt Hall's alongside us, the legend, the man who's won FishOMania twice, 2003 and last year 2009. At what point last year, Matt, did you realise that it was going to be yours?
Every weigh-in I seemed to weigh 3 or 4 kilos, and I kept that up most of the day. I had little spells. I had a little spell where the guy next to me, Mark Tullett, caught a few fish that obviously gone past me, but as soon as I managed to get them back, I was just, you know, happy to be doing that. And I suppose an hour and a half from the end, I thought if it doesn't go down the edge, I'll move on and probably win it, and that's what happened. So yeah.
Well, here are the men fighting for the title this year, and after 5 weigh-ins, we can now confirm that Neil Machin has extended his lead. He's caught 12 kilo 410, but up to second place, Tommy Pickering. He was in 8th place at the last weigh-in, but he's leapfrogged everybody, and I can tell you that in the last few minutes he's caught another fish as well, so he's gone from 8th to 2nd. Andy North has slipped down to 6th place. He was leading at the start of the day, something we've been emphasising all afternoon. You can go from bottom to top with one good half an hour. And that's what these chaps will be hoping for. It's also worth noting that nobody has had the monster yet. Remember, if you net the biggest fish of the day, you will take home £2,500.
Well, that was the last weigh-in. Since the weigh-in, Tommy has caught again, ably assisted just behind him by his daughter Emma, who's whispering in his ear.
That looks like a proper fish.
This is the big one. This was a few minutes ago. Whoa. And this could be the fish that, well, earns him £2,500 for the biggest fish of the day, and is a rather large deposit on the £25,000 winner takes all as well, taking Tommy up into 2nd place.
That could be the fish that did it. I don't know. I think that was one he caught earlier, but I think he's caught one since as well. Maybe not that big, but he's still catching.
Well, it's all still to fish for here at FishOMania 17 in Staffordshire, and this is the fish that could take Tommy Pickering into the lead.
The suspense is killing us, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's exciting because, you know, it's not in until it's in the net, and Tommy knows that. And I wonder if this fish might be hooked just outside the mouth, because it seems like he's not got much in the way of control over it, and he's giving it line. Look, he's winding backwards.
Well, Tommy has preached patience over the years, hasn't he?
Yeah.
We know that he can hear every word as well.
Is it fouled, Tom, or is it in the mouth, do you think?
It's in net, I want it, not in mouth.
It's a proper fish, mate, isn't it?
It's £6 or something like that.
Is it £6?
Oh, it's a ghosty, that's what's up.
Oh.
It's what?
Isn't it funny how those ghost carp fight harder than commons and mirrors?
Don't you know reason for that, Keith?
Well, they're a different strain, I know that. Go on, you're going to tell me though.
No, if I know something you don't know, I'm going to keep it to myself, mate. It's just a pleasure knowing something you don't know.
Oh dear. Well, you knew about the World Float Fishing Championships.
Yeah,
There's 2 things.
yeah, I'm impressed with that myself. Get in there.
Oh, look at that.
You beauty.
We're back.
And how good looking are those fish, those ghost carp? They look like they're chromium plated. That's a cracking fish. Look at that.
It's shaped like a bream, this one.
Is it really?
Yeah, you can see how deep it is.
So would that be 2.5, 3 kilo, Tom?
Yes, 3 kilo.
Oh, it might be worth £2.5, mate.
Well, you never know, mate. I need it.
That's brilliant, mate. Well done. I'm
Cheers,
proud
mate.
of you doing a proper job. You're doing what you've told everybody to do over the years. Don't give up. Keep trying. You were bottom. You were last, 16th out of 16. And at this moment, and I can't speak for when the weighing goes, at this moment, you are definitely top.
Tommy, well done. Let's get down to Lakeside and join our reporters now. Let's go down to pegs 1 to 4. Alec Wilkinson.
Well, the story of these 4 pegs is an interesting little duel going on between peg number 4 and peg number 2. Here we have Neil McKinnon in his second FishOMania final. I've got his position here and his weights. He's currently in 4th place after 5 weigh-ins, 8.87 kilos, which, interestingly enough, is less than a kilo behind second place Tom Pickering. And over on peg 2, Sean Huggins with 8.57 kilos. He's in the running as well.
Well, over here on peg 5, in this section of 4 anglers here, it's been a real struggle, and it's massively frustrating for poor Andy North on peg 5. Andy, of course, was the runaway leader at the start, and as so often happens in these big matches, his fish have simply cleared off. He's not had a bite for ages. In fact, I think he might have had a little tiny skimmer or a roach a few minutes ago. Over on peg 8, although Tim Bull is actually now playing a fish at the moment on his pole line, it'll be interesting to see what happens here, because his brother Mick had great success the year he won the final, fishing down the edge, and I think that's exactly what Tim is doing now on peg 8. So let's just pop round to see peg 9 and Ali.
Well, back there on pegs 9 and 10, Steve Bamford and Richie Hoskins are sort of middle to lower third part of the leaderboard. However, it is completely hotting up here between Neil Machin and also Tommy Pickering. Joint favourites, of course, before the draw was done last night. And at the moment, well, Neil's been kind of pulling in a fairly steady haul of fish throughout the course of the afternoon. As for Tommy, you'll remember that just an hour or so ago, he was right down at the very bottom part of the leaderboard. But he has had an incredible run. Talk about a slow burner. In the last weigh-in, he pulled out what looked to be about the second biggest fish, single fish of the day so far, and he has just pulled out a really incredible ghost carp, arguably one of the biggest fish of the day, but we will find out in the next weigh-in. So first and second spots here, and watch this space.
Well, this is how things stand at the moment. Neil Machin, vastly experienced, has been leading, 12.41 kilos at the last weigh-in. Tommy, 9.5 kilos the last time we heard the hooter. Oh, and there's another one. That signals that Tommy will be put out of his misery, and he'll find out just what he's got in the net. He's had a great half an hour. Let's find out how great it has been with our reporter, Ali Douglas.
Well, Tommy was, as you know, sitting in second position on the leaderboard after that last weigh-in. Neil Machin, who was in first spot, has not caught anything in that last half hour there. So let's just find out what this, well, first of all, this very impressive ghost carp was, which arguably looks like it could well be up there for biggest fish of the day, certainly so far. David, let's look at the ghost carp. Nice looking fish, isn't it?
It's a beautiful fish, yes. Yes,
so we're going to get that one out first of all and weigh the ghost carp, as I say, possibly up there for biggest single fish, and then we'll weigh the other one. £2,500 in prize money for the biggest fish, let's not forget. What's that then, David?
It is 3 kilos 260.
That has now gone into the lead as the biggest single fish of the day. That in itself is worth £2,500. Who knows what's going to happen from now on in, of course, but it's looking good. Let's see what the total catch was.
Is 4 kilos 350.
Well, Tommy is well and truly in the lead now in the leaderboard. So let's just, well, he'll certainly be hoping that his luck can continue.
Here we are over on peg 8 then, and as you can probably see, Tim Bull is playing a fish. Tim has got a carp in the net. I don't think it's going to compete with that fish of Tommy's, but it was a half decent fish. I don't know if we'll just pop that one in the keep net to put that one on the scales as well. Nice round of applause for Tim there. He's struggling a little bit. Here we go with the net then. Thanks very much, Paul, if you just wander that one up here. It's got ever so windy over in this section. So much so that one of the sections on Tim's pole has just broken. It blew off the roller and cracked on the gravel. And there you go, just 2 fish in the net. I don't think that one's going to push Tommy's ghost carp very far, but let's just have a look here. What we got in there then, Bob? Just one carp and a barbel. A little bit lively, and obviously we've got that other carp to go in the next weigh, and that will go in the next weigh that comes round. Just trying to let the scales settle around. It's a good weigh. So 4 kilos 620 with the 2 fish. I think what we'll do, if we've got time, is to just weigh that carp, because I don't know whether that's going to push Tommy's fish or not. Let's just have a little look. Needs to be more than 3.26. Oh, that's close. 3 kilos 420. So that's the biggest fish of the day so far. Tim will be delighted with that. Absolutely, a big round of applause as well from the guys at the back there. Well done, Tim.
Well, as we suspected, after 6 weigh-ins, Tommy Pickering has taken the lead with a total of 13 kilo 850. Neil Machin's still in second place, a bad half hour for him though. And Tim Ball has gone from 11th to 4th with that one big fish of 3 kilo 420. He's had an excellent half an hour, but Andy North, who started the day so well, is now down in 8th place. That's the top of the leaderboard, just around 5.5 kilos between 8th and top. And this is the bottom of the leaderboard, but nobody's going to be despondent here at FishOMania 17. The way things have developed, there's been no favoured part of the lake, no favoured kind of fish here today, so it's still a big guess who could win.
Well, down to peg 16, and Ray Hayward, who turns 50 next month. It'd be nice to have a little bit in the bank to celebrate his big birthday. He's in his second final. He came 5th in 2003, had a good start, but he put down his disappointment to silly mistakes, hence him taking his time in bagging that one.
He stood by his guns as well. He's still on the pole. He's probably still putting the worm and caster in. And there's Tom catching again. That's not such a big fish, I don't think. But listen, he's got the big fish.
Man who's won the UK champions 3 times. But everything, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Apart from FishOMania.
Everything. He's won the Park Dean Masters. He's won the World Championship. He was World Champion 1990, Plovdiv Canal in Bulgaria. At 1989, sorry, 89. Oh, that was a baby. That's a big baby, that is.
Well, there is a
baby.
baby.
A little baby, yeah.
This is Lucy, who's on the back. My daddy is a FishOMania finalist. You can get those at all good stores. Daddy's down there on peg 13. That's Steve Seaborn, who became a dad 2 months after winning his qualifier at Tunnel Barn back in April. Lucy was born in June. She's oblivious to the excitement that's going on lakeside this afternoon. Well, at the moment, the bookie's favourite is the favourite to win it. A lot of smart money was on Tommy Pickering. He's down it, and he's got a fantastic assistant. She's won the Junior Championship, the Ladies Championship, and a former World Champion herself. Emma Pickering is joining Ali Douglas.
I tell you what, if patience was the name in the game, then Tommy Pickering certainly deserves a prize for that alone, because he started off right at the bottom of the leaderboard and now remarkably has got right to the very top. As you heard there, his daughter Emma, a former world champion herself back in 2008, is acting as his bank runner. Emma, what do you think's turned the fortunes around? Is it just patience?
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of patience, but we've had a little chat during the match. We've changed tactics a little bit, and it seems to be paying off at the moment. So fingers crossed, we're going to get a few more in the net.
What are the tactics that you've changed? It was mainly the bait, in fact, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. We've basically changed from feeding ground bait on the method to pellets, and it seemed to make a big impact into the peg. We've had 4 carp since then. We'd spoke about we had 2 carp earlier on, and we'd put some pellets in the peg and went back to ground bait, and we spoke about it and decided to change back to pellets, and it's definitely working.
How much do you think you influence the way that your dad gets on in something like this? What do you bring to him?
I just try and keep him calm, and we talk tactics and things, so it seems to work well. We both know how each other fish, and we fish in a very similar way. So I think that helps, because if we've got the same thinking, we're going to be both thinking the same while he's fishing, so it definitely helps. But it's nice after all these years to get my own back. When he's been on the bank behind me at World Champs, I've got to say I now know how he feels, because I'm nervous as out.
You're probably more nervous than him, but I tell you what, after 17 years of trying and he's eventually done it, you must be very proud.
Yeah, I am very proud. I mean, there's still an hour and a half to go, anything can happen, but get a few more fish in the net and should be good.
Well, it's looking good so far. Emma, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, they're the beauties behind the fishing beast that is Tommy Pickering. It's great when they can hear you, isn't it? Well, he's doing particularly well. Our old friend Tommy Pickering down there on peg 12, putting in a great innings, isn't he?
Absolutely, and he's sticking by his guns. He's doing what he said he was going to do. He's fishing to win. He's not trying to fiddle about with little fish in between the big fish. He's fishing to win the match. The only way to get £25,000 is to go for it.
Matt, the man who's won it twice, it's a case of sticking to your guns, having belief in yourself and continuing with it. And he's got your formula, hasn't he now?
Yeah, the more it goes on, the more Tommy's going to get confident in what he's doing as well, which takes any doubt in his mind out of his mind that, you know, maybe should I change, should I try something else? He knows he's crept up the board and got to the top. If he sticks at what he's doing, he'll probably stand a good chance. Of course, he's got a couple of other options that he's feeding in the middle of the lake, trying to catch, well, line some barbel up. He may well have a go for them.
How important is having Emma behind him on the band? We know that he's a vastly experienced fisherman. He's been around, done it, won it over the years, but having somebody there just to whisper in his ear and maybe tell him that he's doing the right things.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, my bank run over the years has helped me out no end. It's like calm me down when I've got a bit carried away. They're worth a weight in gold, really, and they do a good job.
The ladies are fishing this afternoon. They've just reached the end of their day. Our ladies' man is James Cole.
Yeah, we're weighing in down here in the ladies' competition, and it's quite a climax. It's been very close. All have weighed in bar peg number 2. Anne Yates is bringing her final fish now. She caught 42 barbel, I believe. The leading weight is 26 kilograms 310. Sorry, 26 kilograms 310. But we think that Anne Yates, who on peg 2, could well beat that. Anne is the mother of Emma Pickering, who won it from the same peg in 2008.
9 kilo, 560.
So that's 37 kilos, so that is the winning total. Exactly 37, Anne. So you have won it from peg 2. How key was the peg?
It was a good peg. I mean, it's won the previous 2 years. So when I found I'd drawn that peg, I thought I've got a reasonable chance, and I couldn't let Emma beat me.
And how does it feel, the honour? Because £1,000 is great, but it's the honour, isn't it?
It's fantastic. I think this is the 3rd time I've fished it now, and I've never come close. So to win it, it's absolutely brilliant. And next year, I'm fishing it again with Emma, so I want to beat her again.
Lovely. And have you thought what you'll do with the £1,000?
It'll probably go in the bank, but I'll probably take everybody out for dinner.
Lovely, well done.
Thank you.
Have a good night on it.
I will do, thank you.
There we are, Anne Yates has won here from peg number 2. That's the 3rd successive year that the ladies' winner has come from peg 2.
We've had 6 weigh-ins. We're due weigh-in 7. Can anybody trouble Tommy Pickering at the top of the leaderboard? Let's get down there and find out how things are developing.
Neil Machin here, as you'll remember, was in first position but had nothing in the last weigh-in there, so he has caught in this last half hour. So let's take the keep net up and see exactly what that adds up to. Right, David, here we go. I'm going to come round here. How many are in there? One or?
One.
It's not coming out, David. What is it, first of all?
It's a small mirror carp. It's a small mirror carp. Which is 800 grams.
800 grams. At the moment, I think that will actually put him into first, but of course there have been more catches along here with the current leading man, Tommy Pickering. So let's run over here, and Emma, if you want to get the keep net out, or we'll do the weigh-in for this. There have been a good couple of fish caught in the last half hour as well, so let's just see what that amounts to. Thank you, Emma. Up we go. Many are in there, David. Did you see? There's one, but it's a big fish, isn't it?
Yes, it's a nice fish again. Yes, it's 2 kilo fish by the looks of it. 2 kilo plus. Nice common carp.
There was a quiet spell there for a while, but in fact, things look like they're picking up once again. I've just got splashed in the face by a fish. Right.
Nice fish every time. It's mounting up. Yeah, it's a nice common. 2 kilos 150.
So here we are back on peg number 8. There are 2 fish in Tim's net, and Paul's just going to pop them in the weigh sling. So we've got a carp, and I think it's a little tench actually in there. So close, and you just get the feeling around this part of the lake that if the fish show up, you know, that any of these guys in this section could actually start catching Tommy up. Let's just have a little look there. See, that's over nearly pushing 2 kilos. That's more than we thought, I think. Let's have a look. Bob?
1 kilo 880.
1 kilo 880 for Tim Bull on peg 8.
We're now at peg 4 with Neil McKinnon, who slipped from 2nd to 6th in the last sort of 45 minutes. So we'll see if this fish can bring him back in the running.
2 kilos 180.
2 kilos 180 then for peg 4 and Neil McKinnon.
So let's take a look at that leaderboard. Tommy Pickering is well in the lead now, almost 3 kilos ahead of Neil Machin. That Tommy Pickering's a machine. Tim Bull had that good catch earlier on this afternoon, the biggest fish of the day for Tim so far, and he's crept up one more spot since then to 3rd, but it's still anybody's game here this afternoon. And it needs a few big fish for these guys at the bottom of the leaderboard to still be competing come weighing 8 here on FishOMania 17. It's all still to fish for. Well, who'd have thought it? Here we are at FishOMania 17 and Tommy Pickering is really showing us how it's done. He's bagging up.
And it's like watching a live masterclass, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Yeah. Well, we're seeing it from all the anglers. They're all great anglers and they're all performing to the peak of their powers. If the fish don't comply, it's hardly their fault. You know, it's just they're doing what they know best as they can.
Get in!
And it's a mirror. Not a ghostly at all, it's a pale coloured mirror. And that's another 2 kilo plus fish, that is.
He ain't catching tiddlers, is he?
No. But he didn't set out to catch tiddlers. That method that he's using, the method as it's called, is one of the most positive styles of match fishing. It really is ultra positive.
Now he's the oldest competitor. This is the youngest competitor, 20-year-old Luke Bamford, who can be buoyed by Tommy's example, because Tommy was coming last. Luke is presently coming last, but things may be about to change.
Lovely common carp there, yeah, that's a couple of kilos. That's another good fish as well, Neil McKinnon. And it is, we said Tommy went from nowhere to somewhere in an hour. And the same can happen again.
Now this is groundbreaking television. I've never seen this in any sport yet. Neil, you can talk to Tommy. I've never seen this in cricket or football or golf or anything else. Our leading two, Neil and Tommy, can have a chat with each other. Anything to say to him, Tommy?
Yeah, stop catching. That's what I want to say to him.
And all I want to say to him is, you'll keep doing what you're doing.
What, not catching?
Yeah. No, we're good mates, and I'm sure, you know, if... it's just one of them things. It's competition, isn't it? You know, whoever wins, we shake it end the day and get on with it. We've had a good laugh, a good banter. Crowd's been brilliant, and just hope one of us wins it.
Gentlemen, you carry on with what you do best down there on peg 12 and peg 11. We don't really need microphones. They're within shouting distance of each other. Our two leaders at the moment, Tommy Pickering and Neil Machin. Let's go down to Lakeside, just behind Neil. I think Ali Douglas is having a chat with his family.
Yeah, I was hoping to get a cup of tea with the family, but it's not yet been forthcoming. Neil Machin's family are supporting him wholeheartedly. It's neck and neck, as we know, between first and second. And Neil, of course, has won it before. He's been at FishOMania, I think, 4 times already. But what we do know is that the support of the family is always so important. So we've got Dad Barry, Mum Pat and son Ethan here, 11-year-old Ethan, who are all cheering him on, well, very quietly, obviously. Barry, he takes after you in the fishing stakes, I believe.
Oh, definitely, yeah, without a doubt.
But interestingly, I mean, he was 2 or something, wasn't he, when you first took him, and didn't like getting his welly boots dirty.
That's right. I used to strap him in a punt. I used to have a punt on a lake called Stanley Pool. And I used to strap him in there with his reins. And used to freezing cold winter, you know, ice everywhere. Well, I won't tell you what the blokes used to call me. But,
Save that for later, but it's all about dedication, isn't it? It must be, Pat, if I can come to you, it must be a very proud moment to see your son having grown up with your husband, with your dad, taking him out fishing, and now here he is at the pinnacle of his fishing career doing this. How does it feel as mum?
Oh, I'm really proud of him. Really, really proud, yes.
And you watch every time he's been to FishOMania, you come and...
To the FishOManias, yeah. And there used to be at Doncaster, and now here at Cudmore.
How important do you think it is to him to have his family behind him and watching him?
Oh, I think it's very important. Yeah, really important.
Thank you very much. Let's just have a very quick word with Ethan here, 11 years old, and I've got no doubt about it. You're feeling quite excited, are you, about watching your dad?
Yeah, and just like Opie wins and everything.
Well, he's second at the moment, but there's really only about a fish in it between them. Can he do it?
If he tries.
Dad, you heard it here. You've got to try a bit harder, Neil. Come on. That's what Ethan said.
Well, there's a big crowd gathering behind pegs 11 and 12, keeping everybody entertained. It's only 5 kilos between 4th place and the leader, Tommy Pickering. We still have just over an hour to go. 2 more weigh-ins remaining. An hour of fishing, and as Tommy's proved, he's had 2 barren half hours during the course of the afternoon. Things can change, and over the years, 16, 17 glorious years of FishOMania, occasionally it has gone down to those final few minutes, Keith.
It certainly has. We've seen it a couple of times change hands. I remember when Matt just pipped Darren Cox in the dying seconds. Steve Cook won quite narrowly at Hayfield.
He did, yeah.
And of course Dave Pimlott back in '96. That was just an incredible match.
Right, let's get down to the bankside and find out what's happening at the latest weigh-in. Let's go down to Ali Douglas.
Just over an hour to go and 2 weigh-ins. Tommy, it looks to be said as the runaway winner, but as we know, these things can all change. So let's get the keep net out and see how it's looking after this last half hour. Emma giving him lots of encouragement there as a world champion herself. Dave, there were whoops of delight as this fish was brought out of the water. It looks like quite a good one.
Nice mirror carp, but I don't think it's the biggest fish. It's a nice mirror carp. It's $2 kilos, 780.
Oh, the tension. 2 kilos, 780 for that one. It's certainly not the biggest catch, the biggest single fish today, but it's still doing its job in pushing Tommy further and further out into the lead.
Neil McKinnon on peg 4. He's fishing shallow with hard pellets and going for carp at the moment, and it's showing dividends because he's caught a couple of big uns, including this one, which we're going to weigh now. The wind is also in the right direction now, so he still believes he can catch Tom Pickering at the top of the leaderboard. That's a big one, and let's see how much it weighs.
$2 kilos, 380.
There we go, 2 kilos, 380 for Neil McKinnon.
We're over on peg 14 with Luke Bamford. Let's bring that out, Keith. Luke's had to be really patient, the youngest competitor in the field at the age of 20. He's had a good hour or so with nothing, but I think, he was bottom. He's about to change that, though. He's got 2 really big carp in here, I think. Get in there, Dick. Yeah, both decent-sized fish, that. Not big enough to affect the top of the biggest single fish. OK. Definitely the best half hour this for Luke of the whole day so far. Just giving him a minute to settle.
4 kilos, 820 grams.
4 kilos, 820 grams.
Let's go down to peg 3 and the Benwell, who had a slow start, but he's had a good last 15 minutes or so. In fact, we're told he's had 3 fish in the last 10 minutes.
He's either catching down the margins or he's catching shallow because his float's only a little way from the fish, so he's only fishing 18 inches deep. So he's either fishing against those reeds or he's fishing shallow in the middle.
This is peg 13, Steve Seaborn. Oh, it's going to take all of his athletic ability here to land this one.
That's a Barty.
That is a barbel. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a barbel. No,
that's an edge barbel.
Yeah, what's that? Kilo and 3/4, 2 kilo maybe?
No, about £4 that.
About 2 kilo.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why. Look, it's up just outside the mouth. When you can't get a direct pull on them, it's like having the bit on a horse. It's trying to lead a horse in a head collar and in a bit. It's just entirely, you've got no control.
Down to peg 4, Neil McKinnon, who was in 5th place, an experienced, wily old competitor. Came close in 2007 when Clive Wright won.
And it looks like Neil McKinnon could be getting pretty close to the top again this year, as the updated leaderboard after the 8th weigh-in has put him into 2nd place with 13 kilo 430. But Tommy Pickering is still leading, 18 kilos 780, his total catch so far today. Neil Machin has gone a little quiet though on peg 11 alongside him. He's moved down to 3rd. And down at the bottom, Stephen Bamford has dropped into last place, while Luke Bamford has gone from bottom place up to 10th. He's the youngest competitor, who I think we may be hearing a lot more from over the coming years, the next 17 years of FishOMania.
Well, normally at this point we're delving into the wisdom of Tommy Pickering, a top-class angler. He never hid the envy that he wanted to be out there competing, fishing for fish rather than talking the talk.
He's done it at last. Tom Pickering, one of Britain's best-loved coaches, finally qualified for the FishOMania final after years of trying.
It's great, it's the biggest match on calendar now, and I've always thought for a few years now that it looked great on my CV, a FishOMania champion, and when you talk to the FishOMania champions, it means so much to them to just running around the country trying to qualify for this event. And all my life, all my career, I've been waiting to fish in a big TV match with all my friends and family there, and I'm going to get that chance this weekend, and hopefully I can do the business and do us all proud.
Tom becomes the first former world champion to qualify for the final, and he's bringing 23 years of experience fishing for England.
International duty will always come first, and what I've won fishing for England means everything.
Lindholm Lakes near Doncaster is where the 3 times UK champion holds his coaching sessions, which are free for kids.
I do it my way. I've got all my qualifications and everything like that, but I do it my way and I coach my way, and hopefully they'll come through stronger because of that.
This is my first time here. I've come down because I knew that Tommy Pickering is famous and I wanted to get some coaching tips off him.
He's really nice. He's always friendly. He doesn't really shout that much. If you're doing something wrong, he'll just put you right. Then if you do it wrong again, he'll just keep on drilling it into you, really.
He's a good fisherman and he's a friendly man. He just knows a lot about fishing. And if you don't know something that you've asked him, he'll come back next week and tell you.
Well, if he is successful, there'll be no more popular a winner than the likeable legend, Tommy Pickering. I can say he's the granddaddy of FishOMania because he is a granddad. There's a young Tom, the next generation of the Pickerings on the bank, giving him plenty of moral support. A lot of excitement over on peg 8. There was a round of applause here. Tim Bull, he could have the story of the one that got away. Doesn't look happy. I didn't see the fish being lost, but from his face, I get the impression that it may still be swimming around the water, sticking out its tongue at him. Let's go around the lake now and join our reporters. First of all, down on pegs 1 to 4. Alec Wilkinson.
Well, we started the day thinking that peg 1 would be the most fruitful. In the end, peg 4 turned out to produce the most fish and the best weight. Neil McKinnon and John Arthur, his bank runner, have 4 FishOMania finals between them. They had a game plan, and really it's a story of patience. They were going to shallow fish for carp. They stuck to it through thick and thin, and it worked. It got them into 2nd place, but conditions changed and they've slipped down that leaderboard, and so far it's not to be. Andy Ford, I wonder what sort of day you've had.
Well, Alec, it's been a bit of a difficult one for some of the guys on my section. I feel particularly sorry for Andy North and Rob Wotton, who are on pegs 5 and 6, because at some time during this match, both of them have been in front. Kieran Rich also was one of the favourites. His betting came really short odds came in for Kieran, and everybody fancied his chances on peg 7, but it really just hasn't happened for him. And as you've just seen with Tim Bull, I mean, he really is still just about in contention, but you just wonder how much that lost fish is going to cost him. Tim, a desperate lunge there with his landing net to try and get that fish. What happened actually is he played it in under the landing net, the hook length pulled out of the fish's mouth, and there was just a split second, where Tim could possibly have slipped the landing net underneath it and landed it. And who knows whether that fish would have got him up the leaderboard, and he's just landed one other. You just wonder whether the carp have got half a chance of showing up here. I'll just pass you over to Ali on peg 9.
Thanks, Andy. Well, on pegs 9 and 10, there's really not a lot happening, and not a lot has changed for Steve Bamford and for Neil Machin right since the very start of the afternoon. Sorry, Richie Hoskins. Very different story between Neil Machin and Tommy Pickering. First and second as it stands at the moment. And you'll remember that Tommy was right down at the very bottom of the leaderboard until a couple of weigh-ins ago. He's now right up at the top of the leaderboard. And in fact, there are 5 kilos between first and second spot at the moment. And remember, of course, that this is the first year in 17 years of trying that Tommy has qualified for FishOMania. So what an absolute dream ending it would be for him if things stay the same. What a great way for the veteran, I'm standing far enough away, to finish off this afternoon. But who knows what's going to happen.
Well, this time last year, this part of the lake was where all the action was. This time round, it hasn't quite happened. Steve Seaborn has caught steadily without ever really threatening the leaders. Luke Bamford, youngest competitor at the age of 20, has done well. He started very, very slowly. However, in the last half an hour to now, he's caught a couple of big carps and had a real battle royal. He's caught one carp 3 times without ever getting it in his net. Over on peg 15, it's been sort of quantity rather than quality, really, for Ben Emery. He's caught a lot of fish, but not big fish. 16, Ray Hayward, among the favourites when he landed, peg 16, and he's caught enough to be in contention, but at this point doesn't really look like he's going to threaten the leaders.
Back to the action, down on peg 3. Has an absolute whopper there.
That's Andy Benwell.
That's Andy Benwell.
Yeah.
Biggest fish of the day,
could be.
isn't it?
It's closer to him.
Just to bring you up to speed, Andy Benwell is 8 kilos behind the leader, Tommy Pickering. Andy's in 7th place, but may not catch Tommy.
May not catch Tommy, because what do you know, Tommy's got one on as well.
Oh, you're joking. This is
fabulous.
down to peg 4, Neil McKinnon.
This is when Tommy gets excited normally. He says, this is fishing. There's no sport like it.
Well,
And
the
he's
reason
right.
being, remember, if you're just joining us, Neil McKinnon is in 2nd place. He's 5 and a bit kilos behind the leader, Tommy Pickering. The suspense will be killing him.
This is a proper lump as well. Oh. That takes him up to 16, well, and plus, that's 2 3/4, 2.5, 2 3/4.
It could be very tense
6
final
pound, yeah.
30 minutes, couldn't it? On peg 11 is Neil Machin, who's currently in 3rd place. And want to get that one in just before the hooter. He's done fantastically well there. He's 5 kilos and a touch behind Tommy Pickering, the man alongside him on, I was going to say, in the riverbank. There's Tommy on peg 12. That was after the hooter, wasn't it?
That's between 1.5 and 2 of Neil's. That's 1.5 to 2 of those fish Neil's just caught. It's a big lump, that is.
Right, let's go down to our peg masters. Down to our reporter between pegs 1 and 4, Alex Wilkinson.
Yeah, we're at peg 3 and Andy Benwell, and the reason we're here, Andy's sort of middle of the leaderboard at the moment, but we think he's got an absolute whopper in the net. We watched him wrestle it in. He caught it near the bank, near the reeds, and he slowly teased it out in front of him. And we're going to bring it out now, and we're going to put it on the scales. Remember, we're looking at 3.42 as currently the biggest fish caught today. So we need to beat 3 kilos 42, and we need to get it out of the keep net and into the weighing net. There's a gasp from the crowd on the bank above, and Andre is going to read out now the weight.
Ooh. 5 kilos and 80 grams.
5 kilo 80, that is definitely the heaviest. There's a smaller fish inside. It's only a few grams, but we've got to make sure it's accurate.
5 kilos, 50 grams.
There we go. 5 kilos, 50 grams, and that, so far, is the biggest fish of the day. And Andy has got himself a crowd of about 30 people who've come over from Oxford, and they're cheering him on. And Andy turns around and says, will you please keep quiet? You're scaring my fish.
Well, Neil Machin was in third position after the last weigh-in. There was no fish caught at that last weigh-in, in fact. However, a little bit more luck has come his way, or talent, I should say, in the last half hour. So let's just get Andy to bring the keep net up and see where it puts him. He's chucked the rod back in again, Andy was saying, and that seems to have turned things around a little bit. But let's just see what this one looks like. David?
It is 1 kilo. 1 kilo 540.
1 kilo 540 is certainly not enough to close that gap, but very much can change in a very short space of time here in FishOMania, as we know. So it remains to be seen what's going to happen between third, second, and first. In fact, between them all, it's all very open still.
I was telling you earlier that Neil McKinnon's game plan had been to shallow fish for carp, and that it was working. And here on peg 4, it's working again, because he's in second place. He needs 5 kilos to catch Tom Pickering. And this is another big catch from Neil. Into the net it goes. I'm going to walk round and put the microphone in front of Andre and tell me what that weighs.
That is 4 kilos, 300 grams.
4 kilos, 300 grams then for Neil.
So the runaway leader as it stands just now is Tommy Pickering. He just caught a whale, it looked to me like, actually.
Sorry. Just over. Just... 5 kilos 100.
Another great weigh-in for Tommy there, and this is how things are looking on the penultimate leaderboard for FishOMania 17. No surprises that Tommy Pickering's leading, 23 kilo 880, but Neil McKinnon's second at the moment, 17 kilo 730. And we can tell you that he's already got a couple of fish in the net since the last weigh-in. Andy Benwell had that big fish, over 5 kilos. It's put him up there with a chance, and it's certainly given him the best shot at taking the £2,500 for the biggest fish of the day here in Staffordshire. Now, these chaps are the also-rans here today, but they've all enjoyed the experience, and they'll all be out there trying to get that biggest fish. It's there somewhere with poor old Andy North. He was in first place after our first weigh-in, but 11th place now as we enter our all-important last half hour. Don't go anywhere.
At the last weigh-in, Tommy was 23.88 kilos, way ahead of Neil McKinnon. But we reckon in the last 10-15 minutes or so that Neil McKinnon has got 4, possibly 5 fish in the bag. There isn't enough time in the day at the moment, is there, for Neil over there on peg 4?
He needs one more fish. Neil McKinnon needs one more fish, I think, to go into the lead. He's got about 6 minutes, 7 minutes to do it. Tommy Pickering still wants that one fish in this half hour. He still wants his tip to go round.
I'm sure our cameras in the final 10 minutes or so are going to be trained there on Neil McKinnon on peg 4 and also Tommy Pickering on peg 12. Where is this? This is Andy Benwell, who's already got the biggest fish of the day. And that's his bigger brother.
There's his larger brother. You're right. That'll take him to 20 kilos.
6 minutes remaining on the clock in FishOMania 17 before the final hooter signals the winner take all, £25,000. £2,500 to the winner of the biggest fish. He'll be hoping he gets £5,000 for the 2 biggest fish.
Well, he was 8.5 kilos behind. That's 5 kilos. That thing he's just put in his net, a crocodile. He gets one more like that. Who knows? Neil McKinnon.
Over to Neil McKinnon. Back to Neil McKinnon on peg 4. I think Tommy Pickering may be getting rather nervous.
That's more than a kilo.
Yeah. 4 pound.
That's a kilo and a half. That could be the fish that takes him into the league.
This could be the best ever finish to FishOMania. We've had some belters over the years. Meanwhile, Tommy, arms folded. Don't worry, Tommy.
Oh, God, mate.
Because
I need a pull.
He can hear every word we're saying.
One pull round, Tom.
There's one there, Tom. Back to peg 4, and Neil McKinnon again. What do they call them in angling? A bagging machine.
Yeah, he's just nailed his colours to the mast. He's gone on that fishing shallow, and I think that's his 6th fish in this last 30 minutes. I think he's got 6 fish, which will be 8 kilo.
Probably, yeah, around about that.
8 kilo will give him 25 kilo.
He's a couple of kilos.
Tommy at the last weighing was 23.88.
Neil 17,730.
Well, Neil McKinnon said in 2007, when he was very close to Clive Wright, that the most nervous moment of his life was waiting for that final weigh-in. I think for Tommy Pickering there, in his illustrious angling career, this final weigh-in is also going to be the most nervous moment of his career.
What Tommy wants now is a kilo and a half fish, because if he gets a 4 kilo fish, it's got to be in the net when the whistle goes. There's no after time to play. In a normal match, you get 15 minutes. In the World Championship, in FishOMania, the fish must be in the net when the hooter goes.
3 minutes remain here in Cudmore before the final hooter. It looks like a 2-man chase at the moment between Tommy Pickering on peg 12 and Neil McKinnon, who came close 3 years ago, member of the most successful match team in the UK, contract manager from Gloucester, an outsider at 10-1 at the start of the day's play.
There you see how the importance of every angler having that spare peg next to him. Andy Benwell's caught in what would be water occupied by another angler there. He's catching down the margin, not as far as the next peg, but he's catching down the margin. And the size of the fish he's had down there, creatures.
Well, the big prize is taking home the trophy today, and £25,000 as well.
Andy North.
That's Andy North.
That's a big lad.
Andy North, who started, he was the early leader, wasn't he, in the first hour of the show?
Those big Cudmore carp are showing their face. They haven't done it before in this match.
Tommy has just over a minute to get one more fish. He can't show any favouritism. He's been our expert over the years. An absolute pleasure to have in the studio.
It's been a pleasure to have him on the bank today as well. What a load of insight he's given us.
It all comes down to those scales when the hooter goes in less than a minute's time. Difficult to judge even still. We think there's half a dozen fish in Neil McKinnon's bag.
Yep. And they all look to be at least a kilo.
Over on peg 3, Andy Benwell.
He's just lifted and dropping his bait.
Biggest fish of the day, 5 kilos. No chance to catch a 5 kilo fish now, is there? As the final seconds trickle away. Well, it's going to be beyond the hooter that the tension lasts. 15 seconds remaining, but there's probably another 2 or 3 minutes before we get the fish and the bag to the scales to see who's got what. There's one final fish being caught just behind us from Luke Bamford. But that's it. That's the completion of FishOMania 17. And now the nerve-wracking moments begin for the old favourite Tommy Pickering. No fish in Tom's net in the final 30 minutes of FishOMania. But coming good towards the end on peg 4 was Neil McKinnon. He and Andy Benwell were in an area where the fish started to congregate as the day went on. Andy Benwell got a fish of 5.05 kilos. Neil McKinnon was alongside him. Let's go to peg 3. Busy boy is going to be Alex Wilkinson.
Goodness gracious, it's tense here at peg 3 and 4. Let's get peg 3's catch on this weigh-in weighed in. Remember, Andy Benwell already has the largest fish of the day at 5.05 kilos, and this looks like it could possibly beat that. So he's already got the prize, but can he beat his weight of 5.05? The crowd shout, ooh. Let me just come round. What does that weigh?
5 kilos exactly.
5 kilos exactly. So by, well, a couple of scales, I think that doesn't beat his heaviest fish of the day, which remains at 5.05. It's interesting, you know, Tom Pickering's had literally hundreds and hundreds of people watching him, and now the crowds have moved round to peg number 4, which is where we are now. Neil McKinnon in second place, and we think he could possibly have 5 fish in his keep net right now. Tom Pickering currently in the lead, has none as far as I'm aware. Now, Tom is going to need about 6.15 kilos in order to win FishOMania 17. So I'm trying to see how many fish are in there. I can see at least 4, and they're all a fair size, I tell you. This is incredible. So now thousands of people have moved round on the bank to watch this weigh-in. Andre, the chief steward, waits to lift the bag. So yeah, there's 5 in there. 6 fish, and a fair size too. Right, they're on the scales, so he needs about 6.1. A hush around us, and what is it? We have to do this properly. We need to make sure this is very accurate. I'm trying to see, has it gone round once, twice? What do you think that is?
It's 10 kilos.
10 kilos for Neil McKinnon in his second FishOMania final. 10 kilos 250 is the official weight. We need to number crunch and work out how good that is.
Well, Tommy Pickering at the last weigh-in had a lead of 6.15 kilos. He walks off a disconsolate man, applauding the Tommy tribe who've been behind him today.
This is Andy North's fish.
Now this is Andy North's huge fish we saw him catch. And we think this is, I think this is very, very close to 505.
This is
That's
worth
a big
£2,500, remember. Biggest fish of the day.
Commons weigh heavier than mirrors, they weigh heavier than ghosties, and that's a proper lump.
6 kilos.
I'd been potting in down the edge and I'd put a full dendrobina on and just dropped it in.
6 kilos.
So it's a big fish, isn't it?
It is, and I mean, that can
That's
be
6
2.5 grand or 5 grand, isn't it? Bob, what do you reckon?
6 kilos and 80.
6 kilos and 80. I've seen that.
6 kilos.
It's a carp.
6
it's
kilos,
and
2.5
80.
grand there.
Fabulous fish. Thanks, Mark.
Well, that massive carp may have earned Andy North the £2,500 prize money for the biggest fish, but it wasn't enough for him to take the title. And despite leading since the 6th weigh-in, at the end of the day, it wasn't enough for Tommy Pickering either. He'd set himself a target of a fish every half an hour, but he had 3 blanks. Neil McKinnon believed he had the guts for it, and he came good right at the end of FishOMania 17, pipping Tommy to the post with half a dozen fish, calling an incredible last half hour here at Cudmore. Alec Wilkinson is ready to break the news to him.
Neil, let me come in and say congratulations. You are the champion, FishOMania 17.
Thank you very much.
And how does that feel?
With an hour to go, I've stuck to my plan. I fished my heart out, and it's worked for me.
Now, you came here on your own, but look at the thousands of fans that you seem to have got together over the afternoon. It's been a brave and very patient fish, hasn't it? What was your game plan?
My game plan was to pot in chopped worm and casters like most, but to fish pellets over the top because I knew there was a lot of carp to be caught. And it's fished far harder than I expected it to, but the last hour I've persevered, and I've caught, what, 5 or 6 fish in the last half an hour, and it's just made all the difference. What a great day.
Just agonisingly close when it got to the end there. Tommy Pickering looked as though he was going to scoop the award right until that last half hour. Very, very many commiserations, I should be saying to you, Tommy. It's just so unfortunate. What was the difference between the second last weigh-in and the last one?
Neil fished a great match in the last hour, and that's what did it, and I didn't really. I couldn't catch it in the last half hour, and Neil fished a brilliant match, and he deserved to win it, and I'm really pleased for him.
Well, the man's a legend, but he has been beaten by Neil McKinnon, who makes an almighty splash here at Cudmore Lakes. The day belongs to the gentleman, Neil McKinnon. Congratulations.